What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to a couple of people for showing love to the channel. I want to give a shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, the brother Robert Mason coming through with the donation to the channel via the PayPal. Much respect to you for showing love to Too Raw for TV. Also want to give a shout out to the brother Kurt Dukes for the donation to the channel via the Cash App. Much respect to you for showing love to Too Raw for TV. And I want to get into this. So, okay. Earlier today on my Too Raw Media channel, I did a video about Faison Love going in on Stephen A. Smith for his take on O.J. Simpson being honored in the in memoriam segment for the BET Awards. That award show honored those considered a Black excellence that passed away over the past calendar year since last year's show. And Stephen A. Smith took major offense to OJ being honored. A couple hours after I did that video, Willie D went in on Stephen A. Smith. And he was a lot more harsh with his assessment of Stephen A. Smith, calling him a stooge and a monkey. Stephen A. was heated, absolutely heated, more so at Willie D calling him them names than even Faison. But Faison called him some names too. You know what I'm saying? One of them I think I found hilarious was Dick Nose. So look, this is what Stephen A. basically did. You know, he basically tried to shame people for being mad at his opinion on OJ. And he brought up how OJ was a pariah in the Black community when it comes to before 1994, how he was not beloved. He was not even liked. He was seen as a sellout. OJ had nothing to do with the Black community, and et cetera, and all these things. So he's like, well, why are people going full ham in defense of OJ when OJ didn't want anything to do with the Black community? And he talked about how, you know, even though he used Willie D, he really talking about anybody on social media that's criticizing him. Basically saying like, you know, you're a puppet for, you know, them folks. Aren't you getting paid by YouTube? We're all getting paid by the same people, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty much how he went about that, you know. This is my thing, right? To me, at least, I don't think that I call Stephen A. Smith, or a lot of us look a certain way at Stephen A. Smith because of, you know, the way we perceive him. It's not because of this singular stance. It's because of the way that you have been moving for years. We can all have a difference of opinion on issues from time to time. It's when you have a track record which seems to suggest that you go much harder on people that look like you than everybody else. The facts are there. Since you're talking about you have a record of helping brothers out and doing this for brothers, if that's the case, then why did you have a fellow Black man that works for ESPN like a post that suggested you were a buck dancer? Hmm? How many times have you used your position to hate on brothers, in particular Kyrie Irving? Recently, Jaylen Brown, questioning, whether or not he is worthy, pretty much questioning whether he's worthy of the contract he signed. Who does that other than you? You are personally, in my opinion, personally responsible for the firing of Marvin Lewis from the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay. Uh, you were itching for Adrian Griffin to get fired and went on air and boasted about it. You literally pumped your chest and said, look, I was right. I told you Adrian Griffin would get fired. Give me my props. How many times have you had a put the camera on me moment when you want to lambaste athletes for getting caught with weed or domestic violence? And all that stuff is terrible. And they should be lambasted, especially for domestic violence. But I didn't hear you one time say, put the camera on me for Chad Wheeler, who almost beat his girlfriend to death. Thought he killed her. She eventually awoken out of her semi-comatose state, feigning surprised that she was awake, then proceeded to beat her some more. And this was also left out of the media. He shaved his head like a knot and called himself a neo-Nazi. This was left out of the media. They didn't put this out there in most accounts. Shaved his head, called her racial terms, and then I found out today, I didn't even know this detail, when the police arrived, he fought them. And somehow he lived and had people like you to say nothing, supposedly the most powerful black man on television. You said absolutely nothing. Didn't use your platform to call this out of nothing. And have people feeling sorry for him, crying mental health. Mental health. Mental health. But you, Shannon Sharpe, and others will get on TV and lambaste us Kyrie Irving for sharing a link to a damn movie that some people, the 2%ers, I'll call them, found offensive for absolutely no reason, really. As if he made the movie. Funny. That movie still was up there on Amazon, making Jeff Bezos a couple other extra million of the $200 billion he already is worth. Nobody went after Bezos for having the movie on Amazon, but went after him. And by the way, his former boss, the Nets owner, he's funneling money over in China, which aids to the oppression of Muslims and Black Americans over there. I don't see you use your platform to talk about that, do you? See, this is why we look at you a certain type of way, because you pick and choose when you want to battle, and it's usually when it's somebody that you feel doesn't have the representative power to have any full, really real brushback or blowback for you. That's why we look at you the way we are. It's a collective history. You're outraged at Colin Kaepernick. Such outrage at Colin Kaepernick, but you were very apologetic for Dana White. It's that. It's the way you move, man. It's just you're always on the wrong side of all the issues collectively in our community. And you keep bringing up that, before I forget this, you keep bringing up, because I mentioned this in a video about Robert Blake. And it's interesting I've been mentioning him and then you talk about him. I suspect that some of you people watch my videos, but because I'm a small fish who only get a couple thousand views at best, you look at me as like irrelevant. But I can definitely sense, I think, that you guys look at some of my videos. But anyway, he brought Robert Blake. I was making a comparison of Robert Blake to OJ and how Jimmy Kimmel spoke up and talked about how he shouldn't be on the Oscars in memoriam, and they did remove Robert Blake because of that. But he brought up the comparison of Robert Blake because Robert Blake was a accused of killing his wife, Bonnie Lee Blakely, back in 2001. For those of you who don't know, Robert Blake was an actor who died last year at the age of, I think he was 87, 88, 89, somewhere in that range. But anyway, he was a star of this popular TV show back in the 70s called Beretta. He was in various movies over the last couple of years. I think he was in that movie Money Train. I think he was a villain in that movie. He was in this movie called, I think, Lost Highway in 1997, the last movie that Richard Pryor appeared in. But anyway, he was found, like OJ, he was found innocent in a criminal trial, but was found liable in a civil trial, was ordered to pay $30 million that I don't think he paid to the family of Bonnie Lee Blakely. Now, I bring all that up to say this because I was going to show this on screen, but for privacy reasons, when I say privacy reasons, I don't want to show the names of these users. But I want to, and this is just a small sample size, but believe you me, this is 90% of the comments that I saw on these videos. It has hundreds and hundreds of comments. This was when Robert Blake died back in March of 2023. Now, mind you, this is a man that was in a similar situation where OJ was accused of killing somebody. Matter of fact, he was at the scene right there. We know he was at the scene. They theorized that OJ was at the scene, but we know he was there. A lot of, sketchy stuff about this guy. Plus, Robert Blake has a history of violence that OJ didn't have. Well, he had the domestic stuff, but Robert Blake has always been a guy that was sketchy, okay? These are the comments when he died. Quite a character and a terrific actor. Rest in peace, Robert Blake. Robert Blake was a gifted actor. He had difficulty in parts of his life. I watched every Beretta show and also got an autographed picture still. Rest in peace with respect, Robert. Robert Blake was a hero. Rest in peace, Robert Blake. Rest in peace, Robert Blake. Rest in peace, Mickey. I love Robert Blake. He just made some mistakes in life, blah, 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 right? These are just a sample of the comments when O.J. Simpson died. I think it was back in either March or April of this year. O.J. Simpson can finally rest now that his wife's killer is dead. If cancer did it. Such a shame that he lived to be 76 years old. Even close to death, he continued to lie to everybody. The courts couldn't beat him, but cancer did. Ding dong, the killer is dead. Quite a different reaction. Wonder why that is. Willie D brought up that point. It's because, as he put it, O.J. Simpson is one of the few men who look like him that in their mind ever got away with doing what he's accused of doing, which is killing two white people, and in their minds, getting away with it. Now, he keeps bringing up, Stephen A. Smith keeps bringing this up too. Well, OJ was found innocent in the criminal trial, but found guilty in the civil trial, as if the civil trial is the one that matters. Now, this is why that offends me. I'm going to tell you why this offends me. In the criminal trial, right? The jury consisted of 8 blacks, 2 Hispanics, 1 half Caucasian, 1 Native American, and 1 Caucasian female. So that means that 67%, 2/3 of the jury was black. And only 1 of the 12 jurors was white, and there were no white males on this jury. Interesting that the most angry demographic when it comes to OJ are white males. Maybe because they didn't like the fact that they weren't represented on that jury. I mean, I can be pissed off at the fact that Emmett Till was murdered by two white men who admitted it in an interview a couple years later, never served a fucking day in jail, and an all-white jury found him innocent. So imagine the anger that his people felt. But you don't give a shit, do you? Now, let's look at this civil trial. And let's look at the jury makeup in the civil trial where he was found liable. There were one man born in Jamaica, not born here, Jamaican, but not native of this country, a white woman, a white male, a white woman in her 20s, a white woman in her 40s, a Hispanic woman in her 30s, a black grandmother in her 60s, a man in his 40s believed to be of Middle Eastern descent, a white man in his 50s, a white female in her 50s, a white woman in her 30s, and a white male in his 50s. The alternate jurors, Asian male in his 30s, white male in his 60s, white woman, in her 20s, Hispanic man in his 40s, a white male, a white woman, white male, and a black woman in her 40s. This jury had absolutely no black males actually born in this country, and only one black male born in Jamaica. Jamaica, man. Don't tell me that jury racial the distribution of race in a jury doesn't matter. You tell that to all those innocent black men who were murdered, hanged by white mobs, all because of hearsay. So, Stephen A. Smith, even though you are correct that O.J. Simpson didn't want anything to do with us as a people, the one thing that we all can galvanize behind is the injustice of the criminal injustice system. And that's why when O.J. was first starting to be suspected of the double homicide, and we started seeing the media insinuate that he was guilty, I didn't just rally behind O.J. because of the color of his skin. I was too young for that. I was only 13, 14. I just turned 14 years old at the time. I wasn't really, I knew about racism, but I wasn't really exposed to it like that. I looked at the trial and the evidence. And the one thing that they kept stressing to people is you can only find someone guilty when there is no reasonable doubt. If you want to get mad at somebody, don't get mad at O.J. Simpson. Don't get mad at black people. Don't get mad at anybody except for the incompetent prosecution. The corrupt LAPD, get mad at them. And Johnny Cochran and the Dream Team did an excellent job of showing some things that looked sketchy. And I still, to this day, want someone to explain to me why a witness who was walking her dog, who saw two men run from her, this was what she said at least, and one of them was wearing Bruno Magli shoes, and the shoe print that was seen in the bloody print was supposedly a Bruno Magli shoes. Then there's also a theory that it was a serial killer that did it. I don't know about that one. I mean, I kind of believe that this was, I honestly, just based upon researching this thing for damn near 25 years now, I think it was a cartel that did it. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, okay? I've talked about my Patreon. At the end of the day, all of us, minorities, we all know the injustices of the criminal injustice system. And that's what we galvanized behind. It wasn't even murder about OJ. It was about the injustices that we were constantly seeing in the criminal injustice system. Gotta remember, this was just a couple of years after Rodney King. And we all knew that every one of them damn cops should be in jail. Matter of fact, why aren't you showing the same anger with that? I mean, it just kills me when you always on TV. You always talking about Colin Kaepernick and OJ. Why are you never talking about that? Maybe he has. I just don't see it. I don't see the you showing the same pathological hatred toward that jury decision that you do OJ. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. But then again, it does, you know. So anyway, later on, well, I'll get to that later on. But no, this is the thing about it. Despite what happened on that night, before that, O.J. Simpson was still one of the 2 to 3 greatest running backs the game has ever seen. And he was a movie star. Okay? And he was an analyst. You can't erase that. I'm sorry. It's there. Okay? I think that, for instance, Andrew Jackson was a horrible human being. But he's on the money. He's on the $20 bill. Remember, he was supposed to be removed by the $20 from the $20 bill. They nixed that shit quick, didn't they? They nixed that. They said, I don't want Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. I'm not going to spend it. So they got rid of that shit quick. You know? J. Edgar Hoover, his name is on the FBI building. We don't have to look too far into that to see his name shouldn't be on the goddamn his name shouldn't be on the goddamn his damn tombstone, to be honest with you. But they're still historically significant people. George Washington, a slave owner. You got ships and buildings and schools and all types of, he's on the money. Coin and paper. So no matter what you do, OJ is still going to be celebrated by some. So that's all I got to say about it. And, you know, Stephen A., you'll never get it.